Hello everyone and welcome to another session of Minnie and Me. Today we are painting a fun scarecrow to get ready for Thanksgiving. Now, if you purchase the kit, make sure you have these colors laid out in the order that you see here, 1 through 5. Make sure you have some paintbrushes on hand. Remember, these are not provided in the kit. And be sure to grab your blue canvas, chalk, paint water, and of course paper towel. If you have all these things, you're ready to get started. Okay, first things first, break out your chalk. We are gonna draw out our scarecrow. So, very first thing, there's a lot of details on this scarecrow. You can add as many or as few as you would like, okay? We're gonna follow along and then we will start painting. We are using chalk because if you make a mistake, you can erase it with a clean, damp paintbrush or a clean, damp paper towel. So, very first thing I do is I draw a little bowl, and this is for the scarecrow's face. Now, this bowl isn't flat on the table, it's kind of on a slant. Do you see that? So, after we have that done, I'm gonna draw these little petals for his shirt. And they're just around the bottom of our bowl. And again, you can put as many of them or as few as you want. After you have those petals, you might be thinking, this looks kind of weird, but that's okay. Hang in there. We'll make it look right in just a second. Now, we're going to put in a brim for his hat. The brim is the part of the hat that kind of folds and covers most of your face. So I do that by just putting in a line. Then I put curved lines on the ends of my brim and continue drawing my line. I want my brim to not be perfect. I want it to have folds and be kind of curvy. Next, I'm going to put on the top of the hat. When you do that, look at the sides of the face and use that to kind of figure out how to put a gumdrop with 2 tops on, just like that. Now, we also need to put in a band for the decoration on the hat, and we need to put on some hair or straw for our scarecrow. We're gonna do kind of petal shapes, just like before down here, so they look like footballs. And I'm gonna start by having them peek out the edge of the hat. Then, on the inside, I can do half petals that kind of meet in the middle for scarecrow bangs. Now, do you see how I made some mistakes? Also how I have some areas that I can clean up. I just come in with my clean damp brush, erase those areas I need to clean up, and we're ready to move on. So go ahead and draw your scarecrow out, and then you're ready for the next step. All right, now, with this first half of the painting, we're gonna be doing a lot of color blocking. And basically that means we're gonna paint in solid areas of color on our scarecrow. We may have to do 1 or 2 layers, depending on the color. And after we do the color blocking, at the very end of the painting, that's when we get to build in all of those wonderful details and add highlights and shadows. So, very first thing we're gonna do is break open color number 1, which is a burnt umber. I am going to use a medium-sized wash brush, okay? And you can also use your round brush for this step if you're a beginner painter and you have trouble getting into small areas and twisting your brush. Now, I wanna talk to you really fast about how to hold your brush and how to use it properly. When you are blocking out areas of color, you add details first, or outlines first. I am going to outline. I'm also going to cover up the brim of my hat temporarily. We'll put it back in a little bit. And after you have the basic outline of your shape finished, using the top edge of my brush to do this, then you can use the side of your brush to start at those outlines and bring the paint inwards. It's literally that simple. Okay, so I am going to just continue filling in. This is going to take me a little while, so I'm going to speed up the video, and I'll see you in a bit for the next step. All right, we're gonna move on to color number 2, which is a cadmium medium yellow mixed in with titanium white. I'm gonna grab a smaller brush and we're gonna focus on the straw of our scarecrow's hair. Now, when I am doing this, I am still blocking out color, so I'm not worried about details. And I am using my brush, my round brush, to outline and fill in. Now remember, if your paint is kind of dry and scratchy, what you want to do is mix some water into it, just a little bit, before you apply it onto your canvas, and that will help your water be more fluid, your paint be more fluid and easier to work with. So basically it moves on the canvas better. I am gonna fill in all of his hair and then we're gonna move on. Okay, I have one layer of my yellow done. I am gonna have to go back in and put another layer on later, but don't worry, we'll build that color up again and add some more details after we're done color blocking. I'm gonna open up color number 3, which is burnt sienna and titanium white mixed together to make this kind of peachy color for our scarecrow. And then I'm going to use a bigger brush. Remember, you can continue using a round brush. And I'm going to paint in his face. So I'm gonna come in here and add some details. So first adding that outline and then blocking it in by starting right at the line and drawing it out. I'm also going to go in between these petals. That's going to be our scarecrow shirt, and that is also going to be tan to start out with. We'll add some details and make it a little different, and it just goes off the bottom of our canvas. So I would like you to block out those items and then we'll move on. Face and shirt, and that is basically everything down on the bottom half of the canvas. Okay, we're ready for color number 4, and we're going to start adding a few details for this step after we get done with our color blocking. So I'm going to continue using a medium-sized wash brush, and the very first thing I need to do is make sure that my brown paint is dry, and I can draw back in the brim of my hat, and I'm going to paint that in. So I will outline that and fill that in, and I'll do that when I speed up the video. But let's also talk about the other place that we need to outline and fill in. We also need to outline and fill in the petals. So I can outline around his face and outline each individual petal and fill it in. And again, we're using color number 4, and that color is actually cadmium medium mixed with burnt sienna. So it's a very dark, dark red. So I'm going to block everything out, speed up the video, and then we'll come back and add some more details. Okay, we have all of the red blocked out, or dark red I should say, and now we get to finally add some details. All parts of our scarecrow are blocked out, and now we can have some fun. So we can jump back to color number 3, and we can use this to add highlights to our scarecrow's little collar, I guess is what you could call it. What I do is I try to make it look really scratchy and textured, because most times scarecrows are made out of rough material like burlap. So I'm going to paint in some texture, and what I'm doing is I'm using my round brush and I'm going up and down. My paint is still wet, but first I'm making kind of some vertical lines, and then I can make some horizontal lines, and that will create that rough textured burlap kind of feel. I'm also, after I get done with this, going to add some detail to the very top of his collar. And basically that's going to be where the collar hooks onto or works around the scarecrow's neck. Okay, I now have some detail on my scarecrow's collar, and I am good to go. I can move on to the next step. Okay, so my face is pretty much dry. If you thought you wanted another layer of yellow or tan, you should do that now and let it dry before going on with this step. I am going to put in his eyes, and I am going to make really big circles that disappear into my scarecrow's hair. They almost touch, they're so close together, they're just big curvy circles. I'm also going to draw a big triangular nose that someone sewed onto our scarecrow, and then I'm going to add a wavy line for the mouth, and that just makes him look a little bit more scarecrow-like. Okay, so I'm going to do all of those things, and I am going to start painting them in just a moment. I'm going to adjust my eyes really fast. I want you to get your scarecrow looking exactly how you want it. I want my scarecrow's eyes to be up a little bit higher. So I'm going to do that before I start painting. And then I am going to use color number 5, which technically isn't a color at all. It is titanium white. And I'm going to paint in the scarecrow's eyes. Now I'm going to talk you through the rest of the steps because this is fast. I'm going to outline and block in just like before with all of the other steps. This is like the last of the color blocking you have to do. After I have the eyes done, I am going to move on to his nose, which is going to be red and also blocked out in color first. And then we can add on some details on the next step. So I have my eyes blocked out with white paint to get started, and then I'm just gonna go really fast and put in my red for my nose. And after you have that done, you are ready to move on with the next step. Okay, we're ready for the very last step. We have quite a few detailed steps to do. So let's just start at the top and work our way down. We're going to use color number 3 as a highlight for our hat, and in some cases, no, just our hat, I apologize. So I am going to do at the very top some nice curvy lines that go right along the outer edge of my hat, and that will just make it look like it is highlighted in some areas and darker in other areas. If you feel like that highlight is too bright, what you can do is take color number 1 and color number 3 and mix them together, and you'll get a darker brown. You can also cover up paint easily with color number 1 because that's what we started with. Okay, so I have some highlights at the top. Now I'm going to do some highlights on the brim of his hat. Wherever it kind of curves up, I'm going to do a highlight. And maybe just a little bit on the edges. Those little curvy edges by my scarecrow's face. Okay, next I'm going to do a little bit of a highlight on the brim. On the detail or the ribbon of my scarecrow's hat. And I can kind of mix this paint in as I go. I can use color number 4 and color number 3 to create a lighter area on one part of my scarecrow's hat detail, or that band or ribbon that goes right on the scarecrow's hat. Okay, so now that I have those details done, and remember, you can always cover things up by going back to the base color, the color that we used to block these things out. That is the beauty of color blocking. So it can help fix mistakes. For instance, I got my highlight just a little bit too much right there, so I can cover it up and put it back in a little softer. Next, let's do some highlights on my scarecrow's hair. I am going to take color number 4, and I'm going to put little details for the dark that will kind of help outline my scarecrow's hair. So that's my very first step. I'm outlining the very top where the straw and the hat meet, and then I'm outlining kind of the sides of the patches of straw. Now, after I get this done, this is where I can add a second layer of yellow. And I'm going to blend the two so that I have a really nice solid straw feel. After I have that done, I can go back in with some white and add a little bit of highlight to my straw. And I'm going to do that in just a moment. This last step has a lot of mini steps and a lot of parts where you're adding detail. So remember, you can pause the video at any point and kind of play catch up and work on those steps. Get them how you want them. Okay, so now that I have that straw almost done, I can add some white, and that'll highlight just maybe the inside, very inside of each petal of straw. And remember, if you are not liking it, you can go back to the original base color, which is yellow, and kind of start over. Okay, so straw done. Almost done. I see a little bit of blue showing through. Straw done. Now I'm going to do the details for his face. I am going to take color number 1, which is my burnt umber, and I'm going to draw little circles inside my big white circles. This is for the pupils of my scarecrow's eyes. Now I'm going to show you a really cool trick in just a moment. You can use the back end of your brush, dip it in white paint, and you are going to dot, make sure you don't have too big of a dot of a chunk of white paint on the back of your brush, and I'm going to dot it in the top corners of each of those brown pupils. That will make our scarecrow look alive and look like he has some light in his eyes. I am going to continue with color number 1, and I'm going to put a little X on my scarecrow's nose. This is where someone sewed the patch for his nose onto the scarecrow. Just like that. And last but not least, I'm going to put in a curvy mouth in my burnt umber so that my scarecrow looks nice and fun. Okay, very last detail that we need to do. We need to focus on the shirt, and we're going to take some white paint and we're going to just go over that tan. Now, the trick to this step is to make it look textured, because remember, scarecrows are made out of rough texture, like burlap, rough fabric. So we're going to take our paint, mix a lot of water into it so that it's thinner and transparent, and then paint over it. So some of the tan pops through, and some of the white covers. Once you have that done, you can sit back, admire your scarecrow, add any more details that you would like. For instance, you can continue in using color number 1, and you can outline some of the areas that you want to stand out. You can outline his eyes, you can outline his collar, you can outline his face or the straw of his hair, you can outline his eyes. There are so many different things that you can do to your scarecrow to make him look even better. I hope you had fun painting today, and I hope you have a wonderful, beautiful scarecrow that's ready for Thanksgiving.